Hello everyone. Welcome to our 2025 webinar covering Business Services Basics. We will take you on a tour of our website and go over business entity structures and available filings. This webinar is brought to you by the Office of the Alabama Secretary of State with a special thanks to Secretary Wes Allen. The website for the Alabama Secretary of State is www.sos.alabama.gov. This is the website's homepage. You can navigate to our online services page in a few different ways. For example, you may access the Services drop-down menu, go down to Business Entities, and then click Online Services. Additionally, you may click the handshake image below the picture of Secretary Allen, or you may scroll to the bottom of the page and click Online Services. The gold seal at the top of the page will take you to the home screen. The Business Entity section of our online services page is your central hub for all filings you might need to complete with the Business Services division. We will briefly explore each option. Business Forms. You may navigate to each section of the business forms by clicking the category. We offer general forms, name reservations, agent changes, domestic corporations, including for-profit as well as non-profit, foreign corporations, LLCs including domestic and foreign, as well as less common filing types, such as limited partnerships, limited liability partnerships, limited liability limited partnerships, as well as general partnerships. We also offer a section for mergers and conversions. All forms are fillable and are complete with instructions. We receive many calls concerning registered agents, so we will dive a bit deeper into the subject. A registered agent is an agent of the entity on which may be served any process, notice, or demand required or permitted by law to be served on the entity. The agent accepts any service of process, legal documents, tax documents, etc. sent to the entity and is required to deliver these documents to the entity. You may act as your own agent. A registered agent is required for all entities in Alabama. The registered agent must be a resident of Alabama with a physical and mailing address, or a business entity with a physical and mailing address in Alabama that is already registered with our office. The Secretary of State does not act as a registered agent for any business entity. An entity can only have one registered agent, and the entity cannot be the agent for itself. The registered office may not be solely a mailbox service, telephone answering service, or virtual address. The name and address of the agent will be published online. While the name and address can be changed, it will never be removed from the transaction history. Moving forward is our Business Entity and Name Search tool. You may search by entity name, the entity's identification number, or by agent, member, or incorporator. When searching a potential name for an entity, you will type in the name without the entity designation, because if one entity type has a reserved name, you cannot reserve that same name for a different entity type. This is what a basic entity record looks like. Our Business Document Copies option allows you to purchase a copy of any document we have on file for any entity. You may purchase certified or non-certified copies and receive them immediately via email. You may purchase a certificate of existence. A certificate of existence states that an entity is in existence and has not been dissolved, terminated, or withdrawn. The certificate of existence is available 24 hours after registering an entity. It is equivalent to a certificate of good standing in some states. Additionally, it is different from the Alabama Department of Revenue's Certificate of Compliance, which states that an entity met its tax obligations. This is our Name Reservation menu. All entities must reserve their legal business name in order to form or register a company. A name that is exactly the same as one registered cannot be reserved. If one entity type has already reserved a name, that name is unavailable to all entity types. If using a mobile phone, make sure to turn the phone sideways to properly view the selections. The screen will time out if left idle for more than 15 minutes. If the session times out, you will need to wait 2 hours before attempting the application again. If you start the application before the 2 hours, the name will appear unavailable. Some names cannot be reserved online due to restrictions. For example, names including words such as insurance, engineering, or architect must mail in the form with appropriate approval letters. Once a name is reserved, the certificate is good for 1 year. If the name is not used to form an entity within that year, the certificate expires and the name becomes available. Once the entity has been registered or formed, the name will not expire. Now, we have our domestic formation and foreign registration options. Before we discuss these options in detail, there are a few important facts about online filings in general to note. Online filings are filed at the user's own risk. Erroneous filings are not removed or refunded. They must be dissolved or withdrawn. Incorrect information will cost $100 to correct, and users must certify they understand this fact before a filing can be submitted. A process filing should be printed by the user within 15 days of filing. After this time, a copy would have to be purchased. The process filing does not need to be mailed to our office. Online filings upload overnight and are visible on the business entity records the next day. Domestic formation is the option to choose for those who want to create a new entity in Alabama. The name reservation is $28 and the online filing for the state and county is $208. You will click Continue to Application to begin the process. On the first page, you will enter your contact information. Contact information will not be public or included in the filing. Next, you will enter the name you are requesting for your entity along with the entity ending, for example, LLC or Inc. If you had reserved your name previously, you would enter the reservation ID number from the certificate in the second box. You will then choose the type of reservation and type of entity. You will then double-check that the name complies with all regulations and click Continue. Once you reach this screen, you are given the option to reserve the name only or to proceed with formation filing. If you want to reserve the name only, it is important that you choose so. However, if you want to complete the formation of the company at the same time as reserving the name, you will click File a Formation Data. In this example, we will choose to proceed with our formation filing. Once we continue, we can see our progress to the left. The requester is the individual or entity who is requesting the name for the entity. This information will appear on the name reservation certificate. On the next page, we will review the name reservation before moving forward. The county of formation is determined by the registered agent's physical address, even if the business is located in a different county. The filing options are different depending on the type of entity that is being registered. For an LLC, you will mark the specific type. If you are unsure or have questions, it is best to reach out to a legal professional. You will enter a delayed effective date if applicable. If you wish the filing to be effective immediately, you will leave this option blank. Afterwards, we have a registered agent page. You will first select whether your registered agent is an individual or an organization. If your registered agent is an individual resident of Alabama, you will skip the entity ID number box and enter the individual's name and address. If you are using an organization as your registered agent, you will enter the organization's entity ID number, which will automatically populate its name. And then you will enter the Alabama address the organization has specified for you to use. If the mailing address is the same as the physical address, you can click this button to automatically fill in the address here as well. Make sure you read all notices very carefully before certifying and moving forward. You may add the LLC organizers, but this is optional. You may also upload documents such as a list of the LLC's members or an operating agreement, but this is also optional. It is extremely important not to upload any personal information such as social security numbers, EIN numbers, driver's license, or credit card numbers because the filings and attachments are immediately made public. Subsequently, you have a survey that collects data about small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. The survey is optional, but participation will aid the state in identifying businesses that may be eligible for assistance or resources. Next is the summary page. It is crucial to read everything carefully and fix any errors before moving forward. Continuing past the summary page requires acknowledgement that it will cost $100 to file a correction. At the bottom of the page, you must electronically sign the document and add your title, for example, member, registered agent, or organizer. Once you have signed the document, you can then move on to your payment. The payment for both the name reservation and formation filing combined is $236. Maneuvering back to our online services page, we will discuss a foreign registration. This option is for entities already established in another state that want to be authorized to transact business in Alabama. In other words, foreign to Alabama. A foreign entity must use its legal business name as recorded in its home state. If the legal business name is already taken in Alabama, a fictitious name must be used. Additionally, if the business name does not include an entity ending or has an entity ending not recognized in Alabama, the user will be prompted to enter a fictitious name. The cost of the filing is $28 for their name reservation and $156 for the foreign filing, for a total of $184. However, the application will ask the date on which the entity began or will begin conducting business in Alabama. And if the company has been transacting business in Alabama before registering with our office, after 90 days they will be charged a penalty of $150 a year. This registration process is similar to the domestic formation process, so we will not go into the application here. However, foreign entities will provide their jurisdiction of formation, meaning the state where it was formed and the original date of formation. It is also important to remember the registered agent requirement when registering as a foreign entity. Business filing amendments is our next option on our list. This option allows registered entities to file amendments electronically. The cost of filing an amendment online is $104. As you can see here, there is notable information that is very important to look over before starting an amendment filing. For example, you may not amend registered agent information. You would be required to use a registered agent change form instead. Additionally, you are limited in the options of what you may amend online, and these options will depend on the type of entity. For example, for an LLC, you may amend your legal name, nature of business, principal address, members, and organizers. If you need to amend something different, including adding or removing information, use the amendment form for the particular entity type. Now we will move on to domestic dissolutions. This option is for Alabama entities to dissolve or terminate their entity. A dissolution must be filed to close out a business privilege tax account with the Alabama Department of Revenue, and the dissolution cannot be backdated. The filing fee for a dissolution is $104. And finally, we come to the certificate of withdrawal. A certificate of withdrawal is necessary to withdraw or terminate the resignation of a foreign entity in the state of Alabama. Tax clearance is necessary for withdrawal. As you can see here, there is a link to request a certificate of compliance from the Alabama Department of Revenue. The request is $13.30, and once approved, the certificate of withdrawal can be filed. The filing fee is $104. We have reached the end of our online services tour. Please feel free to reach out to our office with any questions or concerns. You may find the contact information for the Business Services Division here. Additionally, please check out the accompanying PowerPoint presentation for more in-depth information. Thank you for watching, and from all of us at the Alabama Secretary of State's office, let's do business.